So in the last video, I mentioned that around about 16 years ago, I dislocated my shoulder. And then 2 days after I released the video, I dislocated my right shoulder. I'm kind of hoping that I'm not going to be tempting fate this week by talking about running injuries. And as I mentioned in the last video, I'm not a medical professional, but I have been running on and off for around about 25 years. So over that time, I've had my fair share of injuries. First and foremost, the injuries that you generally get are from overtraining or underresting, depending on how you like to look at things. But effectively, when you're increasing your distance, either going from 5K up to marathon or increasing the frequency of your training, so instead of going from 2 days a week to 5 days a week, that tends to be when you start getting these injuries. We'll start off by doing a quick summary of some of the injuries I've had over the years. Achilles tendonitis, there we go. Right, so the obligatory Wikipedia entry says Achilles tendonitis, also known as Achilles tendinopathy, is a soreness of the Achilles tendon, is accompanied by alterations in the tendon's structure and mechanical properties. The most common symptoms are pain and swelling around the back of the ankle. The pain is typically worse at the start of exercise and decreases thereafter. Stiffness of the ankle may be present. So I'd say that's a pretty good summary of it. Most of the problems I have, it is generally noted when I start getting the stiffness of the ankle, this could be a flare up of my Achilles tendon. Let's look at some images so we can get an idea of what we're looking at. Looks pretty decent. Nice. Okay, so Achilles tendonitis is an inflammation of the tendon, which is caused by the straining or tearing of tendon fibers. The way that most people recommend you treat Achilles tendons are the same as they recommend with most of the injuries, which is rest, ice, compression, elevation, and drugs. I found for myself, the only one that really works for Achilles tendonitis is rest. Compression can be useful if you really have injured. So if you start hurting your Achilles tendon and you just keep on carrying on regardless and hoping it will go away, you may end up having to compress it. I only ever use a compression thing when I'm not actually running. It's more for like walking around, and that's only when I've severely damaged my tendon. Now let's look at a couple of the other issues that I've had in the past. So plantar fasciitis is heel pain. It's connective tissue that supports the arch of the foot. It results in pain in the heel and the bottom of the foot and is usually the most severe with the first steps of the day. So again, it's very, very similar to Achilles tendon. I've only had this a few times, but it is, bang on, exactly that. Really, really painful right at the heel just there. So one of the interesting things is that I don't actually experience this pain when I'm doing the exercise, similar to with the Achilles tendon. I actually find I get this problem when I come back into the house and start going up the stairs, and then you get this like sharp electric pain that goes straight through your heel. And I found that rubbing my foot on the step as I'm going up the stairs made a lot of improvements, which is why I went out of my way to buy myself a roller. It's a nice cheap roller straight from Amazon, 5-6 quid, nothing too expensive. But effectively, all that I had to do was roll my foot before and after running, and it took the edge off nicely. Now, it doesn't do anything for you if you've not got a problem with your foot. It really, I tried it before I started recording this video. It does absolutely nothing for you. Now it just basically sits in my cupboard looking like some dubious sex toy. But it is a really useful tool to have. Now, another issue that I've had in the past is the IT band. It has a long name. Let's have a look at it. IT band, right. Iliotibial band syndrome. Now, it is often reported as a knee injury. Now, for me, so I'll show you, actually, I'll get you an image up here. This actually connects your hip to your knee. I've only had this a few times, and this has come across when I've been running outdoors at night on uneven ground. You accidentally jolt your foot and it starts to flare up and causes you a problem. And the fix to this is very, very similar. The fix for me is very, very similar to the plantar fasciitis, which is to use a roller like so. And in fact, I'm sure we could probably find an image of somebody using that. Just rolling on the side like that a few times before and after running really does take the edge off, so you don't actually have any pain long term. And the last injury that is very, very common, and one that you'll no doubt have noticed on me in the past, is knee injuries. So if you've seen any of my outdoor videos, you'll know that I generally tape up my left knee, especially when I'm doing like long distances around about a marathon or more. And that is more preventative than anything else. But if I show an image of the knee, the first thing when you have an issue with your knee, particularly when you're running, is you type in runner's knee. The descriptions of runner's knee is, do you have a problem with your kneecap? If you do, you have runner's knee, buy the support, and away you go. And I've done that for best part of 20 years. Flares up, buy a support, test the support, run with the support, just kind of grin and bear the pain. Now, what I would recommend, if you have a problem with your knee, actually see a professional, because if you look at, here we go, this was probably a pretty good diagram. These are just some of the many injuries that you can have that relate to your knee. It could be the front, could be the back, could be all kinds of things. And the reason I say this is that last year I started having problems with my left knee when I was running on the treadmill last January. And there was a sharp pain in my left knee, again around the kneecap. So I was doing exactly what I'm saying you shouldn't do. Is I was going on Amazon, going on Google, searching around what is possibly the issue, and looking at supports. And I came across this. And this support is effectively a piece of rubber tube inside a Velcro strap. And I thought, oh, I've seen one of those before. And my wife had actually had one of these given to her, purchased one of these when she saw a physiotherapist years ago for something slightly different, but she was having problems with her knee. They recommended this and she tried it out. And I thought, you know what? I've already got one of these supports somewhere. Let's give it a go and see how we get on. Now, when I opened it up, on the inside, it says jumper's knee support, which didn't really mean anything to me. There we go. That's a perfect demonstration of how to actually fit this support. It literally just goes under your knee just like that. And this is where the pain is actually experienced, which is inflammation of the Plantar Tendonitis, which I think is actually more of a ligament than a tendon, but I won't argue with the professionals. When I tried this out, it was a night and day transformation. So I'm not talking about this improved the pain in my knee. I'm talking about I tried this out and I had absolutely no pain in my knee versus having lots of pain in my knee. Kind of learned that the important thing is once you find out what the issue is, the fix can be really, really simple. If I, instead of wasting best part of 20 years farting around finding out what issues, if I'd gone and seen a professional and they'd actually scanned it or done whatever and diagnosed me with that, I could have saved myself a lot of pain. So treatment-wise, it's pretty much the same for all of them in my experience, and that's rest. Rest is without a doubt the number one way to heal from pretty much any injury you have. So to give you an example, Achilles tendonitis usually takes me around about 2 weeks to get better. That's air quotes better. It's not really never really better. Even right now, even though I've got no problems with my Achilles tendon whatsoever, if I squeeze just above my heel, I will get that telltale shock that will let me know that I still have a problem or a deep underlying problem there. But after 2 weeks, you can get to kind of a more manageable pain threshold where you can just carry on or start increasing and building things back. So how do I prevent and minimize injuries? Well, without a doubt, the number one cause of my injuries is worn out footwear. Now, it's been a long time since I looked into it, but it always used to be said that you need to change your trainers or running shoes at around about the 300 to 400 mile mark, which I'm guessing is a relatively arbitrary number. If you're running, 5-6K a week, doing the odd park run here and there, a little bit of training, you're still going to get some pretty good mileage out of your trainers. Last year when I was training for ultra marathons, I was doing around about 50-60 miles a week. So that would mean I'd be needing a new pair of trainers every 6 weeks to 2 months. And that becomes a bit of an expensive game, especially when you're looking at a decent pair of running trainers is going to cost you upwards of £100. Now, I tend to buy all of my stuff on sale as and when I can. And let's face it, today, when you're looking online, you can almost certainly find a pair of trainers on sale somewhere. So this is not, it's not really a secret, but this is the way I kind of approach things. So when I need a new pair of trainers, whenever that may be, I will go out there and I will buy them. And I'll give you an example. I went out last November and I bought myself these trainers right here. These are Puma Forever Run Nitros. I got them in black. Reason being is that I've not used Pumas for a very long time. I used them a long time ago and I never really got on very well with them, but I thought these were sensible enough that I could actually use these for work if I didn't get on with them. Bought them, tried them, loved them. I actually was able to run on these on a treadmill without my knee support. Now, I thought I was going to be wearing this knee support for the rest of my life. Turns out that with decent pair of cushion trainers, I don't need that support. So what did I do? I went straight back to the place that I bought them and I bought myself another pair in a slightly more hideous color. You can buy yourself things in the most awful looking color, your pinks, your lime greens, your yellows, in this case blue, which actually came out a lot better than they looked online. You can usually say, I think these were like £15 cheaper than the black pair, just because they don't look quite as universally acceptable for work, I guess. But what I do then is I put these black pair in the boot of my car. This way, I've always got a pair of decent trainers with me should I be out and about. And I will then wear these, and I am currently wearing these, until I get to a situation where I start getting a niggle, whether that is an Achilles tendon, plantar fasciitis, knee injury, whatever it may be, if I get something that I'm going, that isn't quite right, what I'll do is I'll grab these out of the boot of the car and I will try them out. If that niggle issue goes away immediately, these are retired. They go straight into the boot of the car or the back seat of the car, because they'll probably still be all right for the occasional run, but I will then go on to the new pair. And in doing that, I generally get a good 5 to 6 months out of my trainers before I start having any problems, which by all accounts, I think is pretty good. So what happens in situations where you change your trainers to a new pair and you still have the same problem? Well, the first thing I'll do is I'll change my terrain. So if I'm running on a treadmill, I'll go to running outdoors. Reason being, the knee issue that I was having, jumper's knee, was really only affecting me indoors. So running outdoors, it was less of a problem. That was would have been another way of me resolving it. IT band, the opposite way around. IT band was only affecting me when I was running outdoors at night. Running indoors on a treadmill, no problem. So that was another way of just kind of circumventing the problem. The final thing, of course, is it's really useful just to swap up your sports now and again. So if you're really keen on running, you can probably just switch it out for something like cycling, switch it out for something like swimming, something different. Even though you're going to be affecting the same joint, it is probably still going to be a little bit uncomfortable, but you're not going to be aggravating it in quite the same way. So in summary, although I agree with the statement that prevention is the best cure, if you are middle-aged like me, that could mean that you never exercise ever again. And then you're kind of missing out on all the benefits that you're going to get from improving your cardio, certainly later on in life. So I kind of look at it as though injuries are going to happen regardless, no matter what. Whether you're exercising or not, you are going to get injured now and again. There are always the occasional bumps in the road. But the way I look at it is check your footwear. If it's old, replace it. If it's new, then look at how training is going. Are you training yourself a little bit too much? When was the last time you took a break? So as I mentioned in previous videos, a few of them I think now, it's worth taking a few days or a week out every 6 to 8 weeks just to give your body a chance to heal. Even if you've not got an injury flaring up, giving yourself that extra time to let your body heal up can do you the world of good. It can mean that you can just hit it hard again for another 6 to 8 weeks without incurring an injury. The most important thing, of course, is if you do rest and nothing improves, make sure you see a professional. Don't go on Amazon looking for what the latest fix is, listening to some moron recommending some certain patch. If you go to a professional, they will hopefully identify what your issue is. I didn't. I was lucky and eventually got there. It took me 25 years. If I'd actually found that within a month or two, I might have improved my health, improved the amount of training I've been able to do over the years. So just make sure you look after your body, minimize those injuries as best you can, and see you out on the trails.